So this video is going to be Battle of the Sexes Part 2. It's also essentially going to be a Part 2 on the video I uploaded concerning the males' rights activists versus the feminist activists, and trying to bring a little bit more coherence and peace between the weird gender war that's happening today. If you break this down more as a relational dynamic than a political one, I think you're going to get a lot further. I think if you also view it in terms of manifesting and creating reality as opposed to a political issue, you're going to get a lot further, because as soon as you make something politically charged, I think it's always going to head in the wrong direction and kind of be this war of one side winning versus the other. But when you look at it more like a collective marriage, I think that using that dynamic and using marriage tools are going to get you a lot further and get you the result that you want. So I love that everybody on both ends are being passionate about what they feel and what they've gone through and what hurts caused this, that, and the other. And it's beautiful. And I think these things should continue to be talked about, because even when you're having very uncomfortable conversations, that's where most of the beauty in life lies, is when you can come together, not in your agreements, but in your disagreements, right? We all kind of know this, but coming together at times where you don't agree or coming from complete polar ends are going to be some of your best, most stimulating, most interesting conversations and most extrapolated conversations. And that's really where the juice or the beauty of life lies, if you ask me. So I think it's very important, because silence is the killer and the perpetuator of any issue. So I think it's really important for men and women to keep talking, regardless of how much unrest and chaos is coming out of it right now. But one thing that is really being highlighted in my twin flame journey, and I think something that's always been on my mind, which is why I've talked about it on my channel, is this whole thing with what side is right. I think as soon as you take a side, you're both wrong. And it's pretty simple, right? Because if, again, like a collective marriage, if you go into a marriage always trying to be right, the marriage is going to fail. If you go into a marriage always trying to have your way, the marriage is going to fail. So it's a layer of acceptance and understanding and compromise, and that's never going to come from the place of presenting your side as correct and invalidating the other side. So there's the intro for that. I think gratitude is also going to be something that plays a huge factor in bringing cohesion between the sexes again, because I've noticed a consistent pattern in the war where it's not only I want to be right, but as a mechanism to be right, when you invalidate the other side, you don't express gratitude for the other side, and you become so zeroed in on the problem within your gender that you further invalidate the other side. So it's actually a form, I've talked about this in other videos, when you get into lack and survival mindset, what it does is force you to zoom in on your own situation, which is a form of clinical narcissism. And it's a necessary tool when you're in lack and survival mindset to do, because you have to preserve the self before you can zoom out and be selfless. But a lot of people stop there, and I think something huge that's happening in both of these movements is we're zooming in on our own gender, and we're getting stuck there, and we're completely forgetting about the other side. So not only are we invalidating it when we hear it, but there's this focus right back to, but what about me? But what about me? But what about, look at this, you know? And I've very rarely seen channels or discussions that are coming from a place of talking about the other gender in a positive light, or presenting their own argument with conscientiousness of where the middle ground is, right? And the middle ground is always going to be the winner. I feel like we know this, and it's something that's preached pretty often with relationship in general of any kind. But the gender war at large is just creating a blind spot for the opposing side. So both sides are right in what they're saying. Both sides are right in saying, this is how this gender has misused us, and here are the things that we face within our own gender that is difficult for us to overcome, and things that the other side doesn't necessarily have to deal with or deal with as deeply as we do. So within our own sphere, we have our own things to work out. And then within the relational dynamic, we have things that have gone terribly wrong throughout the years. And all of those points are valid. But the reason that we can't reach cohesion is because we're not connecting the dots between those points. And a huge connector of those things is going to be to have gratitude for what the other side is battling with and zooming out from your own lens. This is a way to open up the heart chakra as well. So when you look at this from a spiritual perspective, when you open the heart chakra, what's going on is the expansion of empathy and compassion, which forces you to zoom out from that lens and come out to everything that is not you. And as empaths, and even as codependents who are healing into the proper empaths that they're supposed to be, like me and a lot of other twin flames and soulmate journeys, or just healing men and women, if you don't believe in that stuff. A huge thing we have a problem with is the opposing side, where we focus too much on the outside and we don't zoom in on our own lens and be the main character of our own life enough. So you can reverse that tool the other way to develop more compassion and empathy, obviously. So one way that you're going to open up the heart chakra is to zoom out from the self, and that's very important for manifesting love and peace and all of the wonderful things that your personal manifestations come with as well. So if we apply this concept to men and women, that's going to come in the form of understanding, compassion, like I said, and then a huge one is going to be gratitude, right? That's why a lot of manifesting gurus talk about gratitude lists, which is why I started doing this for my, my twin flame or my partner or whatever, because one thing I recently apologized to them for was the idea that I had zoomed in on my own lens so much and focused on my own problems and trauma so much that I couldn't even see past the end of my nose. So as a feminist or as a male right activist, this can be applied to the collective marriage between collective manhood and collective womanhood. And you want to solve that situation the same way, where you stop the train of thought of everything you don't like or everything that's going wrong about that gender or everything wrong that they've done to you. Understand that it's valid and that it's real, but that maybe the problem as far as moving forward from it, once we have the awareness, because step one is to bring light to the negative awareness, and we've done that part, and we should do that part. And it's great that we've done that. It's not wrong in the formula. We just need the next step. So the next step in that formula, once we purge all of the negativity, is to start introducing the positivity to it, right? And those things are going to battle each other for a little bit, but the next step is to unearth the crap and then find the positivity within all of that crap. That would be the middle ground that we talk about in relationships. So one thing that I think is going to be very healthy for both genders is to start giving gratitude for everything that gender does right. It's the same thing that we talk about with wives nagging husbands in relationships, but can obviously be applied to husbands pointing out everything they don't like about their wife. Particularly, I've noticed it's a problem with the wife nagging about what the man's not doing, and then the man nagging about a woman having too many emotions or everything she's, like she's feeling too much or saying too much or whatever it is, that there's too much detail and extrapolation and conversation and emotion in that department. And then she'll say he's not doing enough. So when you look at the dynamics, we can kind of see this play out from the individual level to the collective level of our genders. And the only remedy to that is going to be to stop collectively nagging each gender about everything that we're messing up with each other. We've done that part already. So it's time to move to the next step. And the next step is, okay, well, we've pointed out everything we're doing wrong. So what do we do from here? And the solution isn't run away and continue to hate each other more and continue to nag and, get stuck in the negative thought cycle of, well, we don't like them because here's everything they did wrong. Well, great. Now we know what the problem is. You've established what the problem is. What's the solution? And the solution isn't to continue and bicker and hate each other and make the problem worse. The solution is to finally give gratitude for everything that is being done right and positively reinforce. It's the same thing you would do to manifest your life. You unearth the negative thought pattern, you treat the negative thought pattern, and then you start implementing the positive thought pattern and the positive feeling. So now that we've unearthed everything, what are some positive things you feel towards men? What are some positive things that you feel towards women? What are some positive things you think about men or think about women or like about women? What are some things that you could do to make it easier on that other gender? And then ask yourself the opposing question. What are some things you would like to see from the other gender to make it easier on you? And then guess what? We have to have a collective discussion about that. That doesn't include anything. You did this. You made me feel this way. Blah, 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 whatever. There's all of that. We've done that part. It's great. Thank you. And extrapolate that where need be. But the main focus should be, what can we do to make things easier on each other? What can I do to understand your side more? And when you have both genders working on that, and trust me, if the people are complaining about the problem, the majority of them want a solution, but may not necessarily have the tools. By all means, yes, we know there are people that complain to complain and want to be a Karen or want to be a man Karen or Ken, whatever you want to call him, that will do it just to do it, and they're going to do it forever. But the majority of people usually that are bringing attention to a problem is because they want a solution to that problem. They don't want to keep having the problem. Nobody wants to keep having unrest. So for the majority of people, one of two things is going on. Either they don't have the tools or the knowledge or the particular understanding about the other side to solve the problem, or they have the understanding but they don't have compassion. So, the only two things you can do at that point is three things. Accept that the other gender has not gotten it right, because what you resist persists. If you can't accept and meet them where they're at is going to persist if you believe in creating your own reality. So that's step one. And then step two, in order to have empathy, is going to be to step outside of yourself and focus on understanding the other side instead of understanding your own side. Because if you're fighting for your rights as your gender, you've probably already done a lot of homework on that. So let's try to balance that out and get some equal homework done on what the other gender is facing. You don't quit supporting your gender. You keep moving forward with that too, but you just want to bring balance to those things instead of only zooming in on your own lens. Okay. It takes two lenses to make a set of glasses, right? You got to see through their lens too. And then on top of that, again, start giving gratitude for every effing thing that you like about that gender. Everything, whether it's silly to you, whether it's something small and you can't think of much, you have to start somewhere. And do a daily gratitude for that too, for your specific partner, for the guy you're talking to, for the girl you're talking to, for your sister, mother, for your brother, for your whoever it is. For me, I take jujitsu right now, so I'm always really thankful whenever I learn things from my male instructors and the males that I grapple with when I get stuck in something, and then they help me figure out how to get out of it or do drills with me, so I don't get my behind beat in a real fight, or I can defend myself against a man. So coming from an abusive background, one thing I really appreciate, I don't know these men on their personal time, but one thing that I really like is, okay, these men are teaching me how to defend myself against men and women. That's a very important tool. I appreciate them for that. They might not be the best person on their own time, but I can still point that out because that's a benefit they're bringing to my life, and it may not be that specifically for you, obviously, but just as one example, you can make a list of 5 or 10 things every single day. That way you're reinforcing to your mind that this gender is here for you and with you, and you stop conditioning into your mindset and politics and people like Fresh and Fit or Pearl, whatever her name, like people like that who want to stress polarity and want to stress conflict and want to throw wrenches in things to get views. And in my opinion, that's what they do, right? But that's just from what I've seen in their dynamics. But people like that who serve to polarize and further tear us apart and put us in the mindset that this will perpetuate and last forever, and put us in the mindset where we continue to dislike each other. Draw back from that and start conditioning your mindset the same way you would condition it to manifest anything else, and be consistent with it and give it time and give it patience, and understand that sometimes if you expect to be met where you're at in your trauma, guess what? you're kind of an a-hole if you don't meet them where they're at in their trauma. So just learn to be more fair. And again, gratitude, gratitude, gratitude. Do a daily gratitude journal for everything you like about everyone of the opposite gender. And keep it balanced with the work you're doing for your own gender. If you can do that 50-50, I think we'll start to consistently see and uproot a lot more and create a lot more cohesiveness between us with time.